Do you want to identify as a slave? Do you really want to go through all that? Do you want to identify with freedom? And Christ is the freedom you're looking for. Well, here we are again, going through the same thing. All right, I am going to talk to you today about an interesting idea, which is not necessarily identity, but to define yourself, right? And to define yourself is pretty abstract, but it is necessary. And sometimes defining yourself to a certain degree is sometimes better to reverse engineer what you don't want to be defined as a thing that can steer you towards something better. Okay, so what I mean by that is this, is that when we look at the black church, as in the triune thing, because 3/4 chords, God himself is in threes. I have to use threes in order to really get at an idea. So it's that three thing, that trifold chord, that is spirit of bondage, that is political exclusivity right now with the progressive left, and the antichrist matriarchy. Anti meaning that it is the replacement of Christ. Okay, so but as I look at the how to identify or how to define yourself specifically, the defining of something is, I think, a little bit more interesting, right? Because there's a certain degree of objectivity that you can put into yourself, or that. But at the same time, too, there is this greater idea of what you don't want to be associated with. So when you look at the black church is wanting to define you as, it wants to define you always and forever as a slave. If you look at the language of what a lot of people who look like you and I on the left, all right, it is always a definition of some kind of slave. Always. It's always the big budget movies that get sent off to Hollywood. Why? Another slave movie, another slave movie, another slave movie, another slave movie. Why? So they can get you to vote for the good guys, even though the government was the one that instituted some of those laws and actually all those laws in terms of slavery itself. So you're going to now to depend on the government in order to get free from the government that, So but the to identify as being a slave, as in, this is what it's going to do to you mentally, and even it's going to manifest in your life. When you are mentally, and you are being told that you are a slave, right? There is a ceiling that you cannot get past. There's oppression always. No matter how free that you are, there's always oppression, right? No matter how much money, no matter how many sports balls that you play, no matter all that stuff, is no matter what you do, you're always going to be some kind of slave. You're always going to attach it to slavery in some way, shape, or form. So it's like, okay, well, crap. Well, why do anything then? And that's exactly where that spirit of bondage wants you, right? It is a lot of times in culture, I think, is defined by the gods, right? The gods tell you to do these things in order for you to get these results, so therefore, or wear these things in order for you to get these kind of results, or it's all very transactional in terms of culture and things like that. Or it is, about defining an area or defining what this god and its people actually do and say and dance like and everything else, what the music sounds, all that stuff. So I think that culture is presented to you by the gods, right? As in the principalities, the rulers, even. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. So when you look at the black church, all of it's slave talk. You better identify as being a slave. And so because you identify as being a slave, then that means that you're constantly looking at a ceiling that may or may not ever even exist. You're constantly looking for oppression. You're constantly looking for a reason why you can't get to the next level. You're constantly even looking at the level that you're at as being some kind of bondage. You're always stressed because you're always looking for a threat. And because you're always looking for a threat, that can have good health benefits for your mentality or for your body. I think it's interesting too. A large degree of black men seem to suffer from things like prostate cancer and things like that. And I look at what cancer actually is and does, and a lot of it is stress induced because it causes inflammation within the body. Inflammation then puts pressure on the cells then begin to mutate because of all the pressure that's on them. Then after that, you got a problem. And I think it's interesting that the culture is always pushing you towards being stressed out about oppression and slavery no matter what it is that you do, and a lot of black men die very early, even to get past the whole 25 marker, if that's true or not. I think it actually is, so, which is very sad. But getting past that marker, like, okay, you got how many rappers and how many people did we know and personally know that died, like 50, 54? Barely made it to 60? How much of that is related to the fact that they identified with just being oppressed? That can't lead to anything other than death, and wanting death. If no matter what you do, you're going to just be a slave and be oppressed. So I think that sometimes it's better to identify with what you don't want. If you don't want to be a slave, then by God, don't identify that way. And I think it's so interesting too that the minute you stop identifying as some kind of oppressed slave, they get mad at you about it. It's like, whoa, what do you mean you're not a slave? You better get back in line so we can vote the same way, so we can give the government more power to do the exact same thing they did to us and what they're promoting and what they're trying to get us to wait. So it's this thing, isn't it? Where you're commanded to be a slave no matter what. And you're called an Uncle Tom and all these other derogatory terms for not defining yourself as being a slave, which is fascinating. But racism still exists. I have specifically told you which institutions that I think are specifically geared and systematized to oppress people who look like me, which have been the entertainment industry, and I think the government prison systems. I think that's been absolutely true. Hey, look, right? You fit the description, throw them in jail, get the money from the private prisons. The private prisons then go ahead and pass off to the government. Everyone's happy, except for the people that you've oppressed. So anyway, make a few songs about it, and those songs then go to the music industry. The music industry then makes a bunch of profit off of it, and you then send that message out to everybody else, and then after that, I want to go to jail too. So, those are the systems that I think that actually are oppressing black people. 100%, because you see the cycle, right? But if you're trying to get out of those systems, the prison systems put you in slave labor. The entertainment industry will put you in a slave contract. So if I identify myself as being a slave, guess what I'm gonna strive to do? Is this not the cycle that you see all the time, right? If you can't get free, why resist going to prison? And then after that, coming home, and after that, make a few songs about it, get into the entertainment industry, put into these horrible record label contracts, and then after that, most of the artists are sitting there saying that, I'm a slave to the label. Oh, you're a slave again. You see what I'm saying? Like, this does something to you to identify as that. And then I'm gonna vote any other party. All the other parties are racist, right? All the other parties are racist. Doesn't matter what it is, they're all racist. The progressive left, those are the good guys. Those are the good guys. And yet, they have all the data in the world showing you that they know what the issues are, and they don't do anything about it. They just tell you, hey, don't vote for them. It's like, yeah, we get that part. Now, what are you and what have you specifically done to address these concerns that are tearing apart our community in terms of promotion, whether it be of family values, whether it be in terms of policies that promote family, because family is going to be the glue. It's not a matter of what I heard or whatever it is. That's what scripture is saying. It's the family is the thing. Your father gives you identity. You know, you need two parents. Two parents means it's going to have dual incomes. So dual incomes means something in terms of where you're going to live, and those places that you're going to live can either be a good place or not so good place. So that really matters. That really matters. So what are you going to do? Don't vote for them. They're racist. See, I like to meet people at the claims that they have. You know, if you're claiming this, you're claiming that you're the good guys and that you're for us, blah, 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 blah. If you're claiming that, okay, give me the results. Don't give me the vibes. Give me the results. Because the vibes can be manipulated. The vibes are very abstract. The vibes are something that's going to make you feel good, make you feel like, you know, you're part of this, you know, 60s, 70s Black Panther. They make you feel that way. But all the real militants that I'm talking about, the ones who are really about that life, your Farrakhan's, I don't care, your Lord Jamars or whatever else, those guys don't vote this way. The most militant ones do not vote far left. They don't. None of them do. All the militants that I've heard, they don't do that. I used to be one back in college. Pan-Africanist, like Umar Johnson. Used to be one of those. They didn't vote that way. If anything, they were trying to mobilize to form their own thing. But they weren't voting left. Not at all. But anyway, do you want to identify as a slave? Do you really want to go through all that? Or do you want to identify with freedom? And Christ is the freedom you're looking for. Because no matter what, people say, for example, that, oh, well, you know, you're a bondservant to Christ. Means you're a slave to Christ, which means that it's like, won't deny that. Won't deny that. But I will say this, that even if you look at it critically that way, you're still a slave to everything else in this world. You're a slave to the addictions it gives to you. You're a slave to its entertainment. You're a slave to its politics. You're a slave to its money. You're a slave to so many things. And yet Christ gives you this freedom, saying that I will supply, I will bring, I will do, I will disrupt everything in this universe to make sure that you have. If you would just follow me and have faith in my ability, faith in who I am. If you would band together under me, that this will spark a change within the land that you go. And though some of you may be asleep, as in pass from here, some of you may be asleep and may fall asleep on the way, you're still free with me. This day you will be in paradise. I think that's a little bit better than any temporal things that this world can give you to try to twist your arm to vote for it or to agree with it or whatever else. I think that's a much better deal. Or for it to disappoint you, because once again, when power meets a person, if they're not already freed in Christ, if they don't already have an understanding of true power, you're about to find out who they really are. And for a lot of people who voted for this politician and voted for that politician, thinking that the change was going to come their way, and when they got into power, when they got into office, they all of a sudden a few of the things that they were, and then just further and further out, and then after that, gotcha. You're part of the swamp now. Happens all the time. The system, just like with a business, the system does the work. Has nothing to do with what someone's promising or not promising or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the systems. If the reason why an Amazon or any of these gigantic corporations function the way they do is because they have developed a business system that is essentially flawless and ever improving. System that's flawless and ever improving, right? How come you don't think that Washington works the exact same way? So whenever you think that, they can't do it without me, it's like, no, they can. You're just there to fulfill a position for a time. That's it. Just like all the other presidents, the system itself is looking for people who subject themselves to the system in order to make money and votes off of them. And if you identify as a slave, then guess what? You're the first in line. And that's what the system's doing. It is looking always for a group of people that fall for it, that can just become voter stock. And you identify as a slave, who do you think is going to come after the first as a priority? I would say I would rather you be bondservant of Christ. Choose you this day. Believe, as in not believe as he exists. Believe that all that crap that you don't want to talk about, that you experienced and that you perpetrated, all that stuff that you don't want to talk about, that you know was foul, yeah, he died for that. So as you continue to run and try to get a politician to fix something that's actually in your heart, as if that's ever going to happen, he said, believe that the work that I did on the cross is enough. That's the true message of believing. Not that he exists. That's scientism again. Believe that he did it and that only God can pardon sin. So therefore, his claim is that I pardon this, and that when he was here on earth, he was pardoning sin. It's the reason why they killed him in the first place. So I took him at his claim. And when I did that, I got transformed. It wasn't about me going to church and being a good whatever it is. Like, no, none of that. I believed in him because I believed that it was finished. And when he said it was finished, and I submitted myself over to him, I switched kingdoms. And when I switched kingdoms, my life changed. I wasn't even trying to make a change. It just changed. I have a new nature in me. Old things have passed away. There are new things now in which I proudly proclaim in the gospel. Pretty good deal. I like this freedom. And as I grow in him and understand him more, I grow in greater and greater freedom, knowing that I'm not locked in to any of these systems because they don't hold the influence over me like they used to. The influence is on Christ. And the more that I read my Bible to understand who he is, the more that I grow in knowledge of him. As I grow in knowledge with him, the more I grow in freedom with him, because why? I know whom I get my help from and how that works. I want to understand God's system because he's got his own. It's called nature. And as you begin to model it and look at it, it's like, oh, this is how things work. This is why God took a bunch of the most savage culture in the world, the Viking people, all those type of people, and westernized them and made them what they are now. Again, still pretty savage. They still got that in them. But by God, the reason why the world looks up to us and says, hey, this system looks pretty good. It's like, yeah, because from the kingdom. It's not capitalism, it's not that. But the way that a believer thinks is going to be very, very different than what the world thinks. There's a measure of sobriety when it comes to that in terms of innovation. And that's why we're looked at a certain kind of way. It's like, no slaves? It's like, yeah, a bunch of Christians came up with that. Free education? Yeah, a bunch of Christians came up with that. Adoption? Yeah, a bunch of Christians came up with that. Anyway, be free. Be free indeed. All right. Don't identify with being a slave. Identify in Christ. Put your identity there. But at the very least, don't identify as a doggone slave. All right. Love y'all. Deuce.